Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing
Yeah.
else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And Mike Platinum Perry came through and defeated Paul Felder at UFC 226 via unanimous decision. He earned his first unanimous decision of his career. Mike Perry's a guy that was known as a knockout artist, but he's getting back to the basics and he's continuing to develop and round out his game as a fighter. He's only 26 years old, so he's got room to grow and he's in the place to do it. He just started training about 2 months ago with Jackson Winklejohn, and you could already start to see some of those improvements in this fight. We saw some of those flashes of the oblique kicks John Jones is famous for out of Jackson Wink. So Mike Perry, man, has a bright future, and this was a huge win versus Paul Felder. And this is a fight where, you know, if you thought Mike Perry was just a thug coming into this fight, or an idiot, as Paul Felder said coming into the fight, but, you know, it could have just been to help sell the fight, or how he really felt. I know a lot of people do feel that way about Mike Perry. He might have earned your respect tonight with a unanimous decision win over Paul Felder. He looked strong in the fight tonight. He scored, I believe, 2 or 3 takedowns in this fight. He had Paul Felder rocked 3 to 4 times, if not 5, in the fight, with some heavy elbows over the top in the clinch. I mean, he was throwing some high kicks himself toward the end of the fight. Paul Felder definitely held it down and held his own. You know, he took this fight on short notice after he lost his original opponent for next week's main event. So he still had somewhat of a camp, but he wasn't training for Mike Perry, and he took this fight at welterweight. Paul Felder is normally fighting at lightweight, and so he definitely was a game opponent tonight, though. He was a top 10 ranked lightweight, so he's a well-rounded fighter, and he did a good job of trying to keep his range and try and pick Mike Perry apart with kicks and a variety of different strikes, but it wasn't enough against Mike Perry tonight. Mike Perry looked phenomenal, and as I said, rocked him multiple times. Now, Paul Felder landed a couple heavy shots himself. In my opinion, this was fight of the night, and you know, in the first and second round, it was already a great fight. And then going into the third round, we found out Paul Felder broke his arm, I believe, in the second round. It might have been off of the slam, actually. Paul Felder lifted him up pretty high in the air and slammed him down. He came down on his arm. That could have been where he broke his right arm. But Paul Felder fought the whole third round with a broken right arm, still was able to land some body kicks and hold his own. You could definitely see his arm was broken. The clinch scenarios, he couldn't really defend takedowns well against the fence. He had to, when he controlled the clinch, he had to get out of it because his right arm he wasn't going to be able to do much with, so he had to get back to a range where he could really use his kicks. And he was trying to take Mike Perry's head off with a couple of kicks in this fight, but they didn't land, and Mike Perry was able to come through and win this fight via unanimous decision. And in this fight, man, there was a lot of blood. That's one thing that stood out as well. At the end of the second round, I believe, man, Paul Felder's face was like red. You know, it was like one of those iconic UFC pictures. You see it like the Carlos Condit picture. You know, if some of you guys know what I'm talking about. And it was from a cut that Mike Perry opened up with a huge left uppercut. I mean, first, I believe that cut was opened up in the beginning of the first round. Paul Felder was already bleeding a little bit, and it seemed like it might have been a little bit of a head clash. But in the second round, Mike Perry landed an uppercut, I believe, in that same spot that just opened that cut up even more, and the doctor had to come in and check like immediately after the uppercut. You know, the referee called the doctor in to make sure he's okay. The blood wasn't going to be getting into his eye. He was able to continue the fight, but he had a broken arm going into the third round. It was a war tonight. A great performance by Mike Perry. He earned a lot of people's respect. I'm sure I can speak for a lot of the people that was counting Mike Perry out after his loss to Max Griffin. I'm really glad Mike Perry got this win, man. He's one of my favorite fighters coming up. He is a fan favorite, but I'm personally a big fan of Mike Perry. Young in his game, and he needed this win because now that's going to give him that much more time to stay in the UFC, train at Jackson Wink, and round out his game. He's really young. He's only 26 years old, so he's got a bright future ahead of him. So congratulations to Mike Perry and Paul Felder, because he put up a hell of a fight, took this fight on short notice, came up a weight class. I wouldn't be surprised if they earned the $50,000 bonus fight of the night, because in my opinion, that's what it was so far. But it's UFC 226. We still got Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis, Steve Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. We gotta get to the pay-per-view. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. And before we go, shout out to all the full-time MMA white belts that have hit the subscribe button. Make sure you also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to become a full-time MMA blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, or black belt, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/fulltimemma. I'm out.
Da 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 da! It's the motherfucking DOWG!